the world's applause on being a giver needs to stop.
Oh my gosh, say more.
Yeah. Well, because what we just talked about, part of it is a perspective shift, but it's also a space shift in the fact that like you're not taking up all the space. Like you're not filling it with your giving. Like you're not filling it with your opinion. You're not filling it with your angst, your whatever. Like you're pulling back and allowing space for somebody else to show up.
Yeah.
And I think this goes hand in hand with the greatest giving, in my perspective, that we can ever do is to receive another person as they are.
Hello, beautiful soul. It's Meka of SpiderMeka Portraits. Ever felt like your voice was stuck? After my third surgery threatened my voice in 2023, I decided silence no longer suited me, and I was done feeling like I couldn't move forward because my idea of success felt so far removed. So I launched Streams of Silk, your personal and professional journey podcast. Join me as we unravel life's threads together. Expect candid discussions, laughter, and learning, also we can infuse a little more ease into your life. Something smooth, something strong, shimmering, and seductive, just like spider silk. As an internationally recognized portrait and branding photographer, speaker, and storyteller based in Chicago, I empower women to embrace their natural selves and transform toxic narratives. For entrepreneurs and small businesses, I create captivating visuals that demand attention. Explore my work at SpiderMeka.com. Follow the Spider on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Subscribe for more. Hi, Tara.
Hi, Mika.
You being my guest right now I think this is the reason why I started my podcast. It was just so I could talk to you, just so you know.
You're so funny. You have so many people you need to talk to and so much that you need to share. So,
There is something about you, and I think that from our conversation today, so many people who are part of my circle and have not yet met you are going to understand exactly what I mean by you being just this radiant form. And speaking of being, like that is literally the name of your miraculous, beautiful, existential, spiritual essence platform. You call it the art of being. Can you tell us like where that name came from, what that means?
well, it took a really long time to come up with a name. I'll be honest. And I just sat and grappled with it a lot. And then it's weird to me now because now after I have it, it seems so perfect. The fact that my background is in art, and then I really moved into helping people find their purpose. And then one of my frustrations was always all these self-help books that would give you the 5 steps to feel better or the 5 steps to get to your purpose. And I thought, like, I'm not a recipe, I'm not a science, I'm a piece of art. And you can't use the same 5 steps for all the people on the earth. And so you really need to look at them as if they're this creation that's wanting to be born. And so that's where the name, the art of being, came from.
That is incredibly beautiful. I don't think I ever asked you that before.
No, most people don't. Yeah.
It's such a beautiful concept looking at ourselves as art pieces. You know, that resonates with me. That goes without saying. You tapped into something immediately already that I love for this space to be because you use the phrase, I get frustrated with. What is something that frustrates you beyond all get out that maybe people like you, someone in the similar field, promoting some things when it comes to, you know, building up human connection, understanding oneself, how to deal with certain things. You named it, right? There are things out there, there are things being said, things being promoted that just get under your skin that you absolutely hate.
Mhm.
Spill it. Give me the dirt. What gets your gold?
Yeah. I'm like, there's so many going through my head right now. I think the first one is the idea that people say that people don't need to be fixed, and yet they show up to fix people.
Mm.
They show up as though the person is the problem, and everything is about like, let's release the problems. When for me, it's about really going underneath the problems and finding where the person is hiding and helping them to come out and to feel safe, to actually live life in their fullness. Because I think people are hiding under all those traumas. And then they go to people after people after people who talk to them about the traumas and how do we fix the traumas and how do we live with the traumas. And I'm like, there's a person that got stuck underneath the load of that. And
Mm.
we need to extricate them. And, it's like if there's something goes off and you're stuck in a cave. I don't really care about the cave at the moment. I don't care about the structure. Get the person out,
Yeah.
And so that is, I don't even, this piece isn't even a frustration to me. It makes me um, want to weep because I feel like so many people are left in the cave while people are trying to fix the cave and
Wow.
help them to function while they're in the cave, with very little air and all the pressures on them and everything else. And it's like, how do you get happy in there? And how do you breathe better? And it's like, just get them out, help them to function as themselves. And and then from there, everything moves so much faster and with so much more ease because they're free.
What an analogy.
Mm.
That's something else I don't think I've ever heard you. Maybe I've never quite asked you this question before. So hearing, I felt that the
Mhm.
crushing pain of being under rocks and being suffocated, can't breathe. And then you're like, no, stop trying to fix the cave, the rocks. There's a person underneath. That is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And I really, gosh, I didn't think I was going to get emotional in this way. I was like, let's get frustrated and I'm getting sad. But I think that there's a world of people who are trying to function and they're under rocks and dirt and heavy things and they can barely breathe. And yet they're pulling up all the strength that they can um, under the weight of that. Like they keep on going and keep on going and put a smile on and say, it's okay. And I'm fine. I mean, that beautiful word of fine that tells us the truth that you're really not. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Just this morning, I was talking to a very dear friend of mine, and I think that, both you and I think we agree that not a whole lot of things are coincidental, right?
Mhm.
The universe just kind of puts things and guides you. And just this morning, we were talking about a space where she felt incredibly frustrated being around, being forced to be around someone that doesn't quite get her, is not really in alignment with her being, right?
Mhm.
And she had this question. She's just like, how do you function? How do you protect yourself around the people that you can't dismiss and extricate from your life? You have to be around them for one reason or another. How do you protect yourself? How do you continue to be you and then leave that space and still feel like you?
Gosh. So you absolutely have to be there. Like that's my first question always is,
You're like, where are the scissors? Let's cut them out.
well, it's not necessarily about cutting people out. It's making sure that you are honoring your choice. So, if you have said, no, I really want to be there, like here's the thing, like we really have to get real about our choices because there's very few have tos in this world
Mm,
when we really distill it all down. If you're like, no, I have to because inside of my values, I want to show up for family or I want to show up for this. That means that I want to be there.
yeah.
This is for me. And so if you're choosing to be there and this is for you, how do you want to show up while you're there? What would create the greatest space for both people? And because everything's a relationship, right? It's like, okay, so what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Does this person need a lot of space? The other person, because I'm getting, from the energy you're giving, that whoever this other person is they take up a lot of space. They might even suck the air out of your space. And it's like, okay, so if they need and they take up a lot of space, how do I navigate that? Because if I've tried to push myself into that space before, maybe I've gotten pushed out. So how do I just play with the fact that they're taking up a lot of space? And what if I made it all about them? And because I'm choosing to be there, I don't have to be there. I'm a grown adult.
Hmm.
So if I'm choosing to be there and it's part of my values, how do I go into this and like go, okay, if they are taking up a lot of space, most likely they're pushing themselves on everyone in order to be noticed. So I'm just going to notice them. I'm going to notice the fuck out of them, right? Like I'm going to really notice, and I'm not going to do it in a way that's like condescending, passive aggressive, because
Mhm.
I've chosen to be there. And so I'm going to absolutely give them that space because they've shown me that me asking for space doesn't work there. But I have a lot of other areas in my life where people acknowledge me. And hopefully this person that you're talking about does. So in this place, I don't need them to acknowledge me. I'm there because I choose to be there. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm hearing so many things that I want to react to, but also I want you to finish your sentences because this is so great. I'm hearing that if let's just say hypothetically, sure, that maybe a person doesn't have a whole lot of other places to show up, would you suggest creating spaces?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, look at you. So
Oh,
you're doing a little dance. You're like,
it's like, I think that for all of us, like we have to get real that we really do have choice. And so it's like, okay, so if these people, this one person and maybe multiple people take up all the space and they don't give anything back, where are the people that do give back? And am I willing to invest more time in them? I personally have not yet met a person who doesn't have anyone in their life that doesn't acknowledge them or give back. They just don't spend a lot of time there.
Mhm.
And so, because that's easy. And somewhere along the way, we've been taught we like a challenge. And
Right?
so
Yeah.
it's like, quit going for the challenge where you're always failing. Go over here and invest in the person who loves you as you are, just as you are. Receive, give back, nurture that. And please don't keep saying to yourself, there's not people out there, because I'm a testament to being someone who I didn't think there were a lot of people out there. And I am surrounded, yourself included, with people who are freaking amazing. And they keep adding to my life. And I think it's because I'm looking for beautiful conscious people who love to give and receive. So, and then I invest in that. And I don't invest a lot of time here, with the people who don't see me. But the more that I've done this, the more that those people that I thought were just so toxic and so whatever, that I identified as that, they have shapeshifted as I've shapeshifted.
Ooh,
Yeah.
say more.
Gosh. I'm like, I'm trying to think of a different example than the one I normally give, but I can't at the
But
moment.
but when
Yeah.
you say shape shifting, just define what that means. Like, does that mean they've become other people? Because that's kind of what we want some people to be anyway, and that never happens because they are who they are, right? And like you said, they take up so much space and they sort of impress all that energy on us, and it becomes overwhelming. So when you say they shape shift, what does that mean?
It means, damn, I can't think of a bigger example than my ex-husband. But he is the greatest example for me because after we got divorced, I had all the thoughts of who he was, and he showed up all those ways. Like, it was just very difficult in many moments. We were going like head to head, but head to head wasn't like me fighting. It was instead me saying, like, I really need this. And he would say, oh my God, like, you need something again. And you're constantly changing. At the time, I was working in retail. And so, like, I would do nights and weekends, and, I would have to travel at times. And he just wanted a schedule that was exact and the same. And anytime that I would have to tweak it, he just pushed back, and I felt little.
Yeah.
But I was showing up little when I would get on the phone. I was showing up needy, and also like he was this villain who had the capacity to annihilate me with a no. And one day I just stopped showing up like that. I didn't show the opposite. Most people are, okay, so now she's going to go into this powerhouse and say, like, you must do this, Instead, I went into it, and it was an energy shift, not so much even word shift, because I was still asking the same question. Hey, I need you to have the boys. But I think I changed it. This is what's happened in my work world at the time. I need to go here. What do you think? What do you think?
Giving him space.
Yeah, I gave him the space, and I said, I won't go. I don't really have anybody else for the boys to go with. I won't go if you don't think that you can take them. But I wasn't just asking to take the boys. I was asking him his opinion on me going on this work trip. I was giving him value again. And prior to that, I had devalued him so much that he was failing me before he ever answered.
Wow.
And so I think in shifting that he had value in my life, and allowing him to have value was very hard, because at first I was like, he doesn't have the right, everything that went down, he doesn't have the right to have value. He doesn't have the right to be like a hero to me, make my life better. He doesn't have that right. And I'm not going to like let him feel good about anything. And I thought, but while I have that attitude towards him, I also wasn't having a valuable life, and we were fighting.
Yeah, that happens,
And
right?
I just stopped being like that. Like, I just stopped treating him as though he didn't have value and he couldn't bring value to my life. I needed him to have value in my life. I needed him to bring value. And also, he had the capacity to say yes or no. So why not give him the choice and let him feel good about it? Right? So by saying, what do you think? And could you have the boys? He jumped at the chance.
Mm.
He just wanted to be valued. He wanted to have the choice. He didn't want things pushed upon him. And in general, that is how our relationship has been. So I believe that when we give space and do it in a way that doesn't like pull on somebody's potential, like hopefully like there's a lot of people who go into things and they're like looking at people's potential and they're like trying to pull it out. I wasn't
Mhm.
doing that. Like I wasn't trying to change him. I was just giving him an opportunity to show up or not.
Yeah.
I really didn't like I didn't go into it like hoping and praying he was going to say yes. I was like, we're just going to have a conversation. We're going to see what works. And I'm going to deal with whatever the fallout is afterwards.
Yeah.
So,
And the shape shifting happened
yeah,
organically, naturally, by reevaluating what value means in the other person.
yeah, yeah. And wildly, I've seen this happen in my life. I've seen it happen in other people's lives. It's kind of crazy how people want so badly. I mean, I think at a core level, people want to be seen and seen as valuable, right? Like just as they are. And so if you give a space for somebody to rise and you're like leaving that space, more people than not will show up in that space.
You know, that resonates with me, that knowing that all all of us want to do is be seen, be heard,
Mhm.
be valued.
Mhm.
And I love how you just translated that into the art of being, Tara.
Between me working with people in that way and you work with people behind the camera, yeah, we'll show people who they truly are. Mhm.
Incredible. In the beginning, when we first started this, you said there was a lot flooding through my brain right now as far as venting. Is there, I, as much as I would love to continue this part of the conversation, I think what you've done is wrap up that bit so poignantly
Mhm.
that we're gonna pause and ingest it. We're gonna, you
Yeah.
know, I think everybody listening to this is gonna be like, okay, so this person in my life, and how do I give them value? Oh, they don't deserve it. Oh my gosh, but Sarah said, it's kind of true. It's super important, and I wonder what what will start to happen in people's lives when we do that. I would say it's a shift in perspective. Would you agree with that phrasing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the shift in perspective that creates, oh my gosh, just wondrous, miraculous even results. Yeah, to be continued on that for sure.
Mhm.
Was there another space, venting, frame of mind that you wanted to articulate?
I think the only other thing I would say, and it goes a bit with this, is the world's applause on being a giver needs to stop.
Oh my gosh, say more.
Yeah. Well, because what we just talked about, part of it is a perspective shift, but it's also a space shift. And the fact that like you're not taking up all the space. Like you're not filling it with your giving. Like you're not filling it with your opinion. You're not filling it with your angst, your whatever. Like you're pulling back and allowing space for somebody else to show up.
Yeah.
And I think this goes hand in hand with the greatest giving, in my perspective, that we can ever do is to receive another person as they are. I mean, it's I get touched by is when I'm in the presence of somebody else and they're like, oh my gosh, I see you. I like this and this that you said. Like, they're just receiving me.
Mm-hmm.
They've left enough space to see me. And this world talks all the time about, like, especially women, like, oh, you're such good givers. And I don't even like some of the phrases I don't know because I try and eradicate them from my brain. But
Yeah.
like even moms, like, you give to death or, like you've given up your whole life for your children. And where's the receiving then?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where is the receiving of their essence? Where is the receiving of their brilliance, their giving? Like, there's something to being in relationship with people and applauding how they showed up for you,
Mm-hmm.
but giving the space for that, which means that we have, I mean, I've been an overgiver. So it's like stopping yourself from filling in all the gaps.
I so completely attached to what you're saying right now when it comes to all that phraseology that we kind of grow up with and we're inundated with since birth that sort of gets misaligned and twisted and it takes on a different meaning than what it was originally intended for. Like I can see your wheels turning in your head, these kind of giving phrases that were just like, and the one that immediately popped into my head was it's more blessed to give than receive. That's a good one, right?
Mm-hmm,
We all
mm-hmm,
know that one. You know that my platform, this is something that I'm fighting against all the time. This is one of my top vent spaces because receiving it's a bad thing in our society, right?
yeah.
How dare you feel like you deserve something? How dare you go into a space with your hands out?
Mm-hmm,
We frown against it. It's such a bad smack your hand kind of attitude to have. But the rephrasing of it, the re-looking at it as you've described, it's like let's look at receiving as what it actually is and not the connotations of this being an ill-advised, sinful, how dare you kind of space, but allowing other people to give to you and being receptive of that shared connection, that shared communication.
mm-hmm.
What happens when that's met?
I mean, I think there's great healing that happens. I personally believe that if we really want peace on earth, this is what is required. I would go so far as to say the opposite ends of the spectrum, the overly empathic overgiver done to the extreme is very toxic, and people are not going to love this, as a narcissist.
Mm.
But these two find each other because if you're fine, like if we're told that it's bad to receive, I've got to go out to and find somebody who they're like, yeah, I'll receive everything that you've got to give because I have so much to give, right? I've been told.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so this I want to give tends to go to the extreme other person. And so we just, what word I want to say is throw up all over them. And they're like, yeah, like just
Yeah.
bring it on. If we actually cultivate like this synchronistic place of giving and receiving where you're not even sure who's giving, who's receiving, because it's just like this luscious soup, that doesn't allow for someone to like be so proud of I'm the giver and they're not.
Mm.
And it doesn't also allow for somebody to be a taker because that person who comes in, you can see them from far away and you don't want them because you're like, no, this is what I go for. Like this
Yeah.
thing where I don't know where I begin and they end, and it's
The
just so
soup.
lovely. There's value. What'd you say?
The soup. We want the soup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, I think it changes the world, but also this, I mean, this new term of narcissism that really wasn't around before, which is just, it's somebody who actually doesn't know their value in giving. They're on the opposite end of the spectrum. So
That's
they're
the real
just
definition of being a narcissist.
in my book.
Okay.
I have my own book, whichever
Sure,
book is,
absolutely.
you
I'm here
know,
for it. I will read all the tarot definitions, just so you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's the overtaker, but they also don't realize that they have anything of value. So they're taking up all the space. They're often telling you how valuable they are so that you don't see that they don't think that they are.
Yeah.
Put alongside somebody who doesn't think they're valuable enough to receive, but they have so much value that they're gonna explode onto everyone. Hmm.
We've learned so much in this very short amount of time. You've shared some personal things about your life. You've given us some brand new perspectives and true definitions to chew on. Tara, you're able to talk about these things because let's end with just tell us how we work with you and of course where we can find you in order to work with you.
Sure. So I'll go backwards. Where you can find me is on my website, taramcallam.com. And it's all the vowels are A's. Even though I don't say it like all the vowels are A's, there's not another vowel in there. There's not an O, not a U, not an
That
E.
is one of the most valuable things that you said all day because I keep putting like 17 U's in your name and they don't exist at all. So thank you for that tip.
You're welcome. Yeah, always. So that's where you can find me. And the two main things that I do is I work with people privately to empower them so that they can find their purpose, whether it's in relationships or business or family. I just really set people up. I tend to work with people who have gone to a lot of counselors before and they've worked on a lot of trauma, but they haven't actually found themselves. So we find them, set them free, and then set them into successful relationships and work and so on. Um, and then I also train people to do the work that I do, which is so much fun. It is like, to be honest, like the course, this is the second year that I've been offering it, is like so many people come into it just for themselves and then they're like, okay, yes, I really want to do this as a job, right? Like I want to go out and do it, but they've come in because so many of these concepts are life changing and they wanted the ability to stay in it longer, and to work with other people, a community of people who are living and breathing it. And so they watch their own lives change, their relationships change, and then they're like, how do I not work with other people? And help them too. So that's the two things I do.
Amazing. Tara, thank you so much for making space to chat with me today.
Yeah, it's always nice hanging out with you and you make me smile big.
If you learned some things or were inspired by this episode, tap that subscribe button now and never miss a thread. I am Meka, internationally recognized portrait and branding photographer, consultant, and speaker based in Chicago. The Streams of Silk podcast is for small business owners and their friends wanting to elevate their life experience. Follow the spider and keep listening for more ways to find connection in the chaos.